Someone once asked missiologist Leslie Newbigin, "Are you an optimist or a pessimist?" To which he replied, "I am neither an optimist nor a pessimist." And when asked why, he said, "Because Christ has risen." By any objective account of the Christian story, the resurrection is the central event. The resurrection brings hope out of the abandonment of Maundy Thursday, out of the death of Good Friday, out of the uncertainty and despair of Saturday, and here on Sunday, the women come to the tomb and find that he is not there. But what does that have to do about optimism or pessimism? Well, if you think about it, every story that competes with Christianity as the grand story of the world, whether we're talking about Islam or the New Age movement or nihilism or humanism or all the other isms that are out there, all of these either posit a story of the world that's optimistic or pessimistic about the human condition. If you listen to the New Agers very much, or if you remember Oprah's TV shows, she used to talk a lot in this sort of language. Or if you look at books like The Secret, or listen to the New Age gurus like Deepak Chopra or Eckhart Tolle, you hear the same sort of verdict on the human condition. There's nothing really wrong with us. We're not sinners. We haven't violated a God. In fact, we are God. We just need to look more deeply inside and realize our own divinity and goodness. And if everyone just did that, the world actually would become a good place. The secularists often had a view of optimism. It wasn't located in any sort of belief that we're God, but that human reason and science can actually bring in utopia. And there were various utopian secularist visions. For example, the eugenics experiments, that if we could just apply science to human fertility and weed out the lesser fit and the lesser racists, then we can have a perfect world here. Of course, the devastation of the 20th century, from the Nazis to the Holocaust of abortion, show that this eugenics program did not make the world a better place. It just led to an awful lot of bloodshed. On the flip side, there's an awful lot of worldviews that are pessimistic. A lot of stories of the world that say the universe is just broken and nothing can actually fix it. All the nihilists are like this. If you go back to the great atheist thinker Friedrich Nietzsche in the late 1800s, he actually said this: there's no good, there's no evil, there's only power. The whole history of the world is one power struggle against another. The more pessimistic postmodernists really embrace that. And all they see in terms of the story of the world is somebody trying to exert power over someone else. Christianity is neither optimistic nor pessimistic. And it's interesting because Christianity lands in neither of those places for the same reason. And it's the reason that Newbigin mentioned: Christ has risen. Think about it. Christ wouldn't have risen if he hadn't have died. God in the flesh died. The world's not okay if God died. How bad must the world be? How bad must the human condition be? How separated must we be if there's absolutely nothing we can do except hope for a rescue by God himself, who came and took on our suffering and our sin? The world's not okay. You're not okay. God died. But you know what? Resurrection Sunday means God didn't stay dead. He rose again. Death did not have the final say. Pain, suffering, death, they don't win. God wins. And so we can't be despairing. As Father Richard John Newhouse once said, despair is a sin because Christ is alive. So as Christians, we're not people of optimism. We're not people of despair or pessimism. We're people of hope. And that word hope needs to be carefully defined in two ways. For many people in our culture, hope is just this thing of wishful thinking. I hope this changes and I hope that changes. In other words, it's a hope for. Christianity, hope is not a hope for, it's a hope in. Not a wishful thinking that a circumstance will change, but a certainty in an event that happened. Christ has risen. And the other correction we need to make is that hope is not a future event. A lot of Christians just put hope into the future, that one day God's going to come and get us all out of this really bad world, and that's going to be the end of it. No. Biblical hope is based on the life of Jesus Christ and that life that He shares, which Hebrews says is indestructible. John uses a Greek word, zoe, which is not quantitative life, it's qualitative life. It's not life in the future. It's not a hope in the future. Life and hope for the Christian begin now. Because the true story of the world is that Christ is risen. And that supersedes and transcends any event that could ever happen. Right? Islam takes over the world and subjects everybody. Christ has risen. The right guy that we think should be in the White House isn't in the White House. Christ has risen. The next celebrity puts out the next lousy album. Christ has risen. That will never change. That is the key to the story of the world. And on that, we have hope.